This is Born Strategist, and in this video, I'm going to be asking, as well as answering, the following question. Is the Atheon's Epilogue a competitive option? Now, for those of you that don't have the Atheon's Epilogue, or for those of you that don't have the Doctrine for that matter, or a good variant of the Arminius D, then I would strongly recommend that you try to do whatever you can to get a hold of the Atheon's Epilogue. Now, the reason why I'm suggesting this weapon is because sometimes you may not get a good variant of the Arminius D, or maybe you're just not getting to the Lighthouse, or maybe you're just not getting a good gold tier drop in the form of the Doctrine of Passing. So as a result, you're going to need an alternative. Now, I'll be the first one to tell you that even though this weapon is extremely good for close pushing to mid-range, it does have problems, and it's not going to be as stable as the Doctrine of Passing. Now, the Atheon's Epilogue is a great option for those of you that don't have the Doctrine of Passing or a good version of the Arminius D, but it is a year one weapon. Now, that may change sometime in the future if they decide to go ahead and allow you to be able to upgrade them to, 320 attack strength. But in the meantime, you don't really have that option, and you'll have to settle for year one, which has a maximum attack strength of 170. But when you're playing multiplayer, it's not going to be all that big of a deal. Even if you're playing PvE game modes, it still won't be that big of a deal unless you're heavily reliant on your light level. But for multiplayer, especially if the statistics are normalized, you shouldn't have to worry about it. The only time you may have to worry about it just a little bit is when the level advantages are enabled, such as they are in Trials of Osiris or the Iron Banner. So keep that in mind and just know that when you go into battle. With that said, the Atheon's Epilogue does have some good perks in the form of persistence and perfect balance. Now, it's not going to be as stable as the Doctrine of Passing, or maybe even a Arminius D with the persistence and brace frame perks, but still it's going to be the closest equivalent that you have to those particular weapons because it fires at the same exact rate and has the exact same impact. Simply put, it's a lesser version of the Doctrine of Passing and a persistence and brace frame build of the Arminius D. Okay, now here's the thing. For those of you that are wondering, yes, you can get persistence and brace frame with the Arminius D, or you can get counterbalance and brace frame with the Arminius D. But unlike the adept version or a good roll of the regular version of the Doctrine of Passing, you're not going to be able to get both persistence and counterbalance along with brace frame because the Arminius D can only have one or the other. And when I mean one or the other, I mean it can only pick between persistence or counterbalance. It can't have both. So for that very reason, the Arminius D will not be on that level of stability that a Doctrine of Passing would have if it were to have persistence, brace frame, and counterbalance. So for that very reason, you may want to go with whatever you can in the meantime to make sure that you have something that's very similar in terms of function. Now, if you don't get a good roll of the Arminius D, then you do have the Atheon's Epilogue. Okay. Now, if you're someone that's already got the weapon, then you're set. You're already good to go. Okay. And as a result, you're going to be able to probably counter some of the other people that may have a Doctrine inside Crucible game modes. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to win you a victory every single time you use it, because even though it is a good fast-firing auto rifle, it does have its limitations, specifically when it comes to its range, its impact, and its accuracy, meaning that it's not going to be a stabilized version of the Doctrine of Passing. Therefore, you're going to have to deal with some recoil. And as a result, you're going to miss some shots, and you may not be able to have the exact same time to kill as a Doctrine of Passing, which doesn't necessarily have to worry about that sort of stuff, considering that they're essentially one big giant laser beam that could easily be focused on the head of any one target and kill them really, really quickly. Now, time to kill and accuracy go hand in hand, meaning that if you're going to have something that's extremely stable, then it's going to be very consistent. And as a result, you're going to be able to land critical headshots very consistently and effortlessly. And therefore, you're going to have a very dominant weapon that has a really, really high time to kill. Hence the reason why the Doctrine of Passing has become so popular as of now, because it is extremely stable. And this is coming from a person that doesn't even have one. And I could tell you right here and right now, that weapon is extremely dominant as a primary auto rifle. Now, dominant within close, pushing to mid-range. Now, obviously, scout rifles such as the multi-tool will be able to dominate at longer ranges. So if you're trying to, succeed in a Trials of Osiris run, or maybe like a Iron Banner match, whatever it is, and you have a team of opposing players that have doctrines, my recommendation to you is to try to maintain your distance and try to take them out at a long range. Do not allow them to close the gap, because if they do, they're going to have a huge advantage over you. Now, in the event that you're not a person that likes to hold back and you're playing objective-based game modes such as Control and you want to get out into the thick of things, then my recommendation to you is to utilize the last word, because it's a good capable counter. It may not be as easy to handle as the Doctrine of Passing, but it has a very similar time to kill. The reason why I say similar is because it's really difficult to determine, as a result of peer-to-peer hosting and lag and whatnot, which one actually is superior in terms of time to kill. Now, if you were to ask me, I couldn't really tell you. I don't know exactly which one is superior in terms of time to kill, because it's so difficult to test this sort of thing. Granted, there is one thing that is for sure, which is the Doctrine of Passing is far easier and consistent than the last word. So if you're looking for something that's more consistent, as a similar, if not identical, or superior time to kill, then I strongly recommend that you go after the Doctrine of Passing. And if you already have it, then you're already set, especially if you have a counterbalance variant. Now, if you don't have it and you want to have something that has a similar time to kill in close quarters combat, then I recommend that you go with a last word. Now, if you don't have either of those two weapons and you're trying to get through a match that may be full of opposing players that have those weapons, then I would strongly recommend that you either try to maintain your distance with a multi-tool or some sort of scout rifle, or you rely heavily on your shotguns and you maintain cover until they move in too close and you take advantage of them. Specifically the Conspiracy Theory D or the Invective. So make sure that you try to take advantage of those people that may attempt to rush your position. With that said, thanks for watching. And for more objective reviews, strategy guides, commentaries, and more, stay tuned to this channel.